Hey, everybody, welcome to tonight's live. I see Jennifer there. Hello, Jennifer, and Jan, and Heather, and Betty. Hey, guys. I'm so glad you're here. Yay. And my beautiful fiance, who's my moderator, is here. Elaine, hello. Jennifer. Hey, honey. I even see some guys on here, which that's okay too, because you guys have daughters too. So this is all about talking to our daughters. And Chips, I see Chips there. How's the weather where you guys are? Everything good? Snow melted? Life's good? Deer in the headlights. I was just looking to see who was coming on. Sorry, here I am. I have a very, hi, Carol and Mia. I have a very, I'll try not get emotional. Hi, Heidi. Tonight, I am extremely passionate about a lot of things, but empowerment is everything to me. And that's why I come here every night at 7 o'clock. So I will say that if you guys keep showing up, I'll keep showing up. And it's a lot of work, to do all the prep and to be here and to write all over my pretty boards. So I'm very passionate about this, and I am willing to do whatever it takes to reach my goal of 50% of women at least having the informed consent conversation about hormone health and their options, because women are suffering and they are in the dark. And so I am going to keep saying what I can until as many people understand that you have been lied to. I'll just say that, lied to about a lot of things. And so we're going to talk about how we can change this for the next generation and how you can stop suffering and be an example to the next generation. Hi, Constantina. Yay! 12-month liberation. Woo-hoo, I love it. Love this goal. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I love it. Love this goal. Yes. So, you know how we do this? We do this together because I can't do it all by myself. So I'm expecting you guys to share this information and to at least you'll get a lot of resistance. We can start the resistance, right? I think of it like all the movies where things are like closing in and there's always the resistance. There's always those few that maintain the truth and the power, right? So we have to be warriors. We have to be hormone warriors together. So that is my plea. And that is my promise that I will be with you guys every step of the way. And to that note, I have no idea what's going to happen with this platform. So if you don't know me, then please make a little note to go to my link in bio later if you just happen to fall in here and just like God just led you here for some reason. But to go and push the button in the link in bio, and it's a link tree, and download some of my free information. It'll ask for your email. But the reason I have it like that is because, and I will never sell your email. I hate it when people do that. I don't care how much they offered me for the list. I won't sell it. But if you want me to be able to find you and so you can follow and promote the cause, then capturing that email is the way that we can reach out to you. And we send out emails. We won't overburden you with emails, but it's always got information in it. And so I love to empower through information and education. So that's really what I do. So if you are interested in any of our services, you can go to hormonebliss.com, and all those links are in the link in bio as well. So, okay, so I'm going to jump right into it. And I'm a little I don't even know. I just, oh my gosh, this is so important. I don't want to mess it up because what we do for the next generation is everything. And how we take care of ourselves, I think of it like an airplane. When you get on an airplane and there's that messaging that if they should lose oxygen and we need an oxygen mask, I don't know all the technical stuff of that. But what do they tell you to do? They tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And especially as women, that seems very, very, very counterintuitive. And it seems very counterintuitive because we are freaking designed to take care of babies. We are primitively brainstem designed to take care of other people, and that's just God's plan. And so it's perfectly okay to be very maternal because that's what our hormones are, that's what estrogen does. And it's perfectly okay to care for other people, but we have to take the time to care for ourselves first. And that is not selfish. That is so you are 100% for the people around you. And I say that I'm the menopause queen because I am menopausal. I'm 55, but it is just a small picture of what my whole life has been as a female who has suffered in silence, and even being a medical doctor, not even knowing what to do for myself at times, and just the pain, physical pain, the suffering. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to get emotional, but I see it every single day. I see women that come into my practice in their 70s who have pleaded with their, is pled a word? I don't know, pleaded with their doctors to give them some hormones or to do some testing or something. So it has to stop. It has to stop because there is just so much information that is hurting women and that doctors are perpetuating. And so, anyway, without any further ado, I'm going to jump into this because I want to talk about some very specific things, how you can advocate to your daughters. And so tonight's talk is called What You Can Do. And the video that I did invite you guys here tonight was called Dear Daughter. And so this is basically the whole premise of a letter that I wish that my mother could have written to me. Thank you, Constantina. Could have written to me, because I think it would have helped a lot of the suffering. So at 55, I'm just going to tell you, I won't tell you my whole story, but just briefly, at 55, I was born in the late 60s. So my mother was a product of the 50s. And at that time, there was just so much cultural taboo. Oh, daughters, so much. And please share this video, save it. If you do the little thing, you can, I think you can save it. I'm not sure. I will repost this on the live, and I am on Facebook and Instagram and all those things. So those always live stream. So you can go save those too. But I absolutely will share this. And again, I started that a while ago, but if you go download any of my free information in the link in bio, I will have your email so you can always find me on any of the other platforms, but also so we can let you know where I am, because I might have to move to one of those new ones or something. I don't know. They're talking about all sorts of different stuff, but anyway, so my mom was in that age where it was in the 50s. There were very traditional gender roles. So this is just a little history of how I truly believe we've gotten to the point where women are just shut down and can't even have the conversation. And so we've kind of moved from these traditional gender roles where women were just supposed to be modest and nurturing. And, I kind of think of it like Stepford wives, with the big dresses and the aprons and all that. And so we had very specific gender roles. And so women were just sort of supposed to support the men. And let me just say, I am no feminist by any means. I love my fiance with all my heart. He's absolutely precious, wonderful. He empowers me. He supports me. He's on these lives every single night to make sure the riffraff stay off and don't say stupid stuff. But I think there is a divine masculine and a divine feminine, and we are 50-50. And so that is not it at all. I think that there has been a situation where it has not been that way in the past, and that we've not been supported. And we as women are intelligent. We're physicians, we're engineers, we're teachers. Even if you like choose to take care of your babies at home, that takes a lot. That's very, very important. So I think that we're getting more support and that we are more empowered, but not in healthcare. I'm 54 and fearful of HRT and I'm suffering daily. Oh. So GT, I did a talk not too long ago about vaginal health and UTIs and hormones and all that. So, yeah, do not be fearful of HRT, especially BHRT, which is bioidentical hormone therapy. And GT, if you go to my link in bio, I have a bunch of downloads where I was just saying there where we can get your email so I can send you free information. And there's a bunch of them in there. But super important that you go and get some information because I have so much on BHRT, the safety. And there's one called what why did my doctor tell me I can't take hormones? And so I would direct everybody there to read that. And I promise every single night here that I'm here at 7, I break all this down. So it's so sweet when my staff tells me that you guys talk to them and say that you're fans because I'm your fan. And I love that. I just love that mutual admiration and respect. And they just glow and they just say, oh my gosh, these are wonderful ladies. And so I'm so grateful that you're my tribe. But you do not need to be scared. You have been lied to. And I think that's one of the things that scares me the most about this platform or any platform is that they don't want people telling the truth. So it's just kind of a matter of time, probably because I've already had 4. I don't say that out loud. So I had to be really careful, right? But the only reason I'm as careful as I am is because I want to stay here and keep bringing the truth. So as long as I can, I will. Okay, so just a little bit more about the traditional gender roles, and especially in medicine. And I will tell you, this culture of silence and suffering and shame, that is the biggest thing that we're dealing with is shame. And I think it goes back, if I really had to kind of peel that onion back, to times when, for whatever reason, women could be controlled because they're the ones that had the baby, and you could control populations, you could control societies if you could control the woman. So, how much easier is it to? And I do not say that women are the weaker species or gender because we are not weak. But physiologically, we do not have the testosterone and the muscle strength that a man has. And so, for that reason, we are physiologically disadvantaged. And so it's just been a cultural thing for long time that we're perceived as weaker. And so we really have to stand up for ourselves. And being a doctor, when I went through med school, this is so crazy. When I was I'll never forget it. I decided that I wanted to go to x-ray school before I went to med school. And so because I wanted something to fall back on. I'm a plan B kind of girl, always have been, very, very forward thinking with, security and all that stuff. And so by the time I got through 2 years of x-ray school and then I went to med school or went to college, I loved science and research, and I actually studied hormones. I loved it. So I decided to get a master's degree. By that time, I was a lot older than the average student coming 4 years out of high school. And so I actually went to one of my med school interviews, and there were like, I don't know, like 8 males around the table, not a single female. Of course, this was, I don't know, this was 30 years ago. Oh my gosh. Or more. Yeah. I don't know. And so I'll never forget, one of them was sort of the head honcho or whatever. And he looked right at me and he said, "You can't say this stuff anymore." He said, "How old are you?" And I don't even remember how old I was at the time. I guess I was like probably 26 or 8. And he said, "Do you realize that you are older than most traditional students?" And I said, "Yeah, but I've also got a lot of experience and I've done a lot of stuff." And he said, "Do you realize what I can't even believe this." He said, "Do you realize what a waste it is for us to give your spot to a woman, because we are going to lose physicians to the medical workforce because you're going to have babies and you're going to be out of the workforce, and that's going to take a spot that's going to help, fill the void for taking care of patients." And I was like, in that moment, I was so ashamed to be a female. I can still relive it. I can't believe, number one, he asked me how old I was, but because he's looking at my, my resume and saying all this time. And number two, that he so blatantly said, you're a female and you're wasting that seat right now. You're wasting our time to even be here. So, I mean, we've come a long way since then, but that's what I've been up against. And I've never like pulled the gender card. I just kept going. I just kept showing up and doing my job. And actually, I kind of got like in trouble a little bit because I'm a question asker. I'm super curious. I want to know everything. And when they would say stupid things like, quit stressing out, just memorize 10 meds and you'll make a good living, and stupid stuff like that, it would just infuriate me. And I would work all the harder. And I don't know if you've ever seen the TV shows where it's like grand rounds and they're quizzing everybody. And I would be so prepared, like over prepared. And if I could go back and do it again, I'd have kept my mouth shut because like I had a target on my back then because it was like, that's not well received. So I just tell you all this to tell you that you are up against more than you know, and it's better than it's ever been, thank goodness. And more women are in medicine, but you're still up against that a little bit. So kind of a little back history too, and I'm going to get right into my board, I promise. Being that my mom was in the 50s and was very much in that culture of the way things were in the 50s, there was a lot of shame. I remember, and I don't know, you guys can comment if you experienced any of this. I remember my mom telling me, shaming me about touching any body parts. And that was very young. It was like, and the first thing she said to me, I was so little, I can't even tell you. I mean, maybe like your earliest memories when you're kind of finding body parts, you don't know what's going on. Never touch yourself and never let a boy touch you or you'll get pregnant. I spent my whole young life, because there's nobody to talk to and ask that, right? Thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't even want a little boy in my kindergarten to even get near me because like I had baby dolls and they were cute and everything, but I knew that like that wasn't a good thing. So that was kind of the shame that was implied there. And then fast forward, I do, Elaine, yeah, they frighten you. And then fast forward, I remember when I started my menstrual cycles, I actually started a little bit late. And of course, kids talk. And I had a little friend, and, she was like telling me, like, about the birds and the bees. I'm like, no, are you serious? And then about that time, they kind of came out with the sex education in school. And so you're kind of starting to understand menstrual cycles and stuff. But I remember it's like one night there's the menstrual cycle, and I was like, holy crap, what do I do? And I was scared to death. And I went, I told my mom, and she's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, I think, is this okay? And she goes to the bathroom cabinet and brings out a box of Super Plus tampons. I had no idea what to do with that. I just kind of in shame went in the bathroom. I read the little insert on the box. Like there's this lady with her leg hiked up on the toilet in this picture. It's like a cartoon picture. And I'm like, really? Like that? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? And I just started bawling and it hurt. And I was like, is it supposed to hurt like this? And so I remember just stuffing toilet paper and just going to bed and like trying to like not think about it. And then the next day, what do? We actually go to the store and small town, and there's this boy working at the grocery counter checking us out. Yeah. Um, and I'm like, I'm just so embarrassed because I'm like, he's going to see what we're buying. And like shame upon shame upon shame. And then fast forward, I'm terrified to go to a doctor. And then when I ever thought about having to go to a GYN and get a pelvic exam, or heaven forbid, ever get in stirrups to have a baby, and then kind of fast forward, every woman who's ever done that is like, it totally made your dad buy it, Carol. That's funny. And it totally changes once you have a baby because you're like, whatever, everybody's seen my, parts and stuff. You're no big deal anymore. Like all of our, just we don't have any shame anymore because we're like, yeah, I just popped a baby out of there. So whatever. And I think as we get older, that definitely goes. But I think it's a lack of education. I think it's a lack of awareness. I think it's also the male female disparity because so many doctors are males that it's hard to talk to them. And I think because a male has never had periods and babies and perimenopause and menopause and endometriosis and ovarian dysfunction and ovarian failure, it's really hard for them to understand what we're going through. My friend said May just mean 55. She put the whole like hair and she didn't know. I mean, yeah, what are you supposed to do? Do they say that on the directions, right? It's funny, but it's not funny, you know. So it's like, how do we make that different for our daughters? So how do we keep the shame out of it? And how do we desexualize a physiological process? While yet still educating them about body autonomy and respect and being a high value woman. That is all tied in together because we do make babies with this process. But I think it's very important that we keep the medical part separate. And there is if you go to my YouTube channel, I did a video with my son probably 10 years ago. He was little, he was probably like 7. And it was called I can't remember. It's basically talking to your kids about sex and Santa Claus. And so my whole premise on that was I've never, and I don't judge this if you do this. Oh, good. Very open. We're changing it, right, Connie? I'm very open with my son and always have been about Santa Claus because I'm like, I never wanted him to think that I would lie to him about anything because when it comes to something that's really important, and again, I don't judge. Santa's fun and, you know, it's all Christmas. It was just a choice that I made because with my parents, like there were so many lies and my parents were great, but they lied to me about Santa Claus. They lied about, you know, they had been married before, all sorts of things. And so they lied to me about like stuff my brother was doing. And I know that on some level they try to protect you, but I was just like, what's the truth and what's the lies? And so I just decided that with my son, I was going to start very early. And as a single mom, it was only me to have the conversations, right? Because his dad didn't even live here around us. Lied about the tooth fairy. I mean, it's all stuff, right? So we're all on our journey. But so we always use the medical terms for stuff. And so that was kind of the gist of the video. So you can go search that if you want. He's a cutie. But so I asked him on there, how do you feel about that? And he said, you know, how appreciative he was about always, there was no shame around anything. Well, and I'm a doctor too. So that kind of, you know, gets that a little bit too. Um, there's also fear of medical repercussions because if you tell a doctor that you're having XYZ, are they just going to stick you on meds and tell you you're crazy and you need antidepressants? Or are they going to, worse yet, tell you you need a procedure that's very scary, like surgery or taking your uterus out? So there's that. And then are you going to feel like you're gaslighted because there's not a whole lot of choices, or people don't think there's a whole lot of choices when you go to a doctor because like you go wherever your insurance tells you have to go, right? What's a network, or you go to the first one that's available, or you pick a GYN because you think they're going to know more about female issues. But what do? They just want to cut your uterus out or pull an ovary out, or they do a hysterectomy and they go, oh, you might just get cancer in your ovaries. So let's just go ahead and take them out. You know, I mean, it's madness. Or if you have UTIs, you know, recurrent UTIs, like you had mentioned, then it's like, okay, here's your antibiotic, or just take an antibiotic every day. That freaks me out when doctors like just put women on chronic antibiotics, or for rosacea, they just put them on chronic antibiotics. I'm like, you're wiping out their gut flora. You're freaking me out. Why? Why? I would say it's clown world, right? Okay. So, and then there's also the aspect of talking to your doctors and having the conversation that you're going to feel stupid or crazy. And because that's what you get. You get, here's your birth control pill, here's your antidepressant, here's your sleeping pill, here's your hysterectomy. When you complain enough, right? They're like, just, we're going to pull that uterus out. That lady will have to just go away. Oh, good. Carol said she's got a nurse practitioner specializing in prolapse. That's good. So yeah, there are great people out there. I am not dogging everybody, absolutely. But for the majority of people, when you're dealing with that insurance hamster wheel, that's what you get. And so the whole thing, hysterectomy or hyster, that word HYSTR, that root word means uterus, hysterectomy. And that's where the word hysterical came from. So women have been labeled for a long time as hysterical. And there's actually some historical connection with the Salem witch trials of women having hormone issues and that there could have been some chemicals. Yeah, you got a good one. I like that, Carol. Could have been some chemicals in the environment because they were also having some seizure-like activity, but it was all the young menstruating girls that were called witches because they didn't know what was going on. So we have like we have a bad history, right, of like having hormone problems and then labeled as all sorts of things because it hasn't been understood. So it's been a lack of education too. Crazy homes, yes, institutions. I mean, how many women go through menopause who lose their ever loving minds? And instead of a doctor saying, let's have a conversation, at least an informed conversation about hormone therapy, even if it's not bioidentical hormone therapy. I mean, stick me on a synthetic pill. I don't care. Keep me out of the institution, right? Because so many women lose their ever loving minds. And there is, if you watch any of my other videos, you know exactly the effects that estrogen has on the brain chemicals, our whole bodies, our whole psyche. And it is no doubt when women are having estrogen dominant symptoms, especially around the mid cycle of their period, right before ovulation, that we get very moody, very cranky, we don't feel good, we're not sleeping, we're bloated. And so our moods are very much dependent on hormones. I wouldn't have the bedroom. Felt so bad. Oh, I hate it. You know, you guys tell me all the time how much you're suffering, and it breaks my heart. So that's why I'm here every night at 7 to do this. Okay, so let's get into it. What you can do, you can advocate for yourself. Call it the airplane analogy, and you can be the example. And number 2, you can let go of your shame because her life, your daughter, your granddaughter, whoever it is in your life in that next generation, her life depends on it. And there could come a time when there's something that she needs from the medical profession, and there might be some kind of care, or she might neglect getting help for something that could literally cost her life. So she could just think everything's okay or not know what to look for. A lot of women don't know that postmenopausal bleeding is a problem, that it could be uterine cancer. And so they just kind of go forever until all of a sudden one day they're like, oh, well, I thought I was just having periods again. So what's normal and what's not? It's very important to know. Okay, and acknowledge the past, all these societal, generational things, and your own struggles and challenges. And that's why I left my shame at the door and told you my crazy stories about my experience with my mom. And my mom passed, but she was the most precious thing my whole life, my advocate in every way. She was just doing the best she could, but we can do better for our daughters and our granddaughters and the next generation. I truly believe that. And with the day and age of the internet, where the information is available to you, where there's crazy, silly girls like me telling you all this stuff, you are very empowered and you have the choice. So you don't have to go blindly into the dark anymore. It's all out there. Choices apart from pellets. So I have lots of videos on bioidentical hormones and topical creams. That's what our program does. I love it. We do saliva testing. And so what we do is just my little plug for our process. We can check estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and we can then devise a plan for you to get on bioidentical hormone creams. And there's lots of ways you can do it. Pellets are probably in females one of the worst things that you can do as a woman. As a guy, I do them very frequently in my office. I don't see a lot of males in my office. It's the husbands of the women because the women get their testosterone up and they're like, meow, and then the guys they're like, can you like help my husband? So testosterone is very simple, but testosterone in a female you can very easily get overdosed on testosterone. And so that's not a good thing. Trust me, it's not a good thing. And once they're in, you put them in it's like a little, if you guys don't know what pellets are, this is a little trocar. This isn't it, this is ink pen, but the trocar is about this size. And you put these little Tic Tacs in there and you put it in the backside and the hip. and it lasts like 3 to 6 months. But in women, if you just stick testosterone in there, you get too much. I've actually had to remove those out of women before because they've been so miserable. So if you're going to a commercial doctor, I say if you can find someone to help you, always recommend testing first. Always remember to basically make sure you feel like you can trust them, like they know what they're doing, like they actually have some experience in menopause treatment. They're not just going to stick you on something. I've had women tell me they've gone to clinics and they literally just stuck pellets in them and never checked any blood work or anything. One lady told me they didn't even numb her up, didn't even put any localized anesthetic there, just jabbed that thing in there and said, oh, you'll be fine, steri-stripped it closed, and that was it. Yeah, it Conley. Yeah, no, it's not a no for pellets. It's just that there's so many other options. So the other question was, what are the options? And so I love the topical creams, and that's my passion project, is because they are so safe that I don't even worry about all the things that they talk about. I have lots of videos on basically the safety and efficacy of bioidentical hormones. Are very different than synthetics, and it's really easy, and the testing is really easy. So oh, too much testosterone, it can be bad. It feels really good when you get a whole bunch of testosterone, and then it doesn't. Like when you come down off the testosterone cliff, I've seen women almost suicidal. I had a lady at one time, and we actually had to do some estrogen blockers to help her testosterone estrogen conversion, because she said, I literally feel like I am a danger to myself. And I said, it's okay. It's okay. It's not you. So I just put her on some estrogen blockers and it came down and she was okay. And she was like, I'm never doing that again. So again, I do have some women in my practice that I do testosterone pellets for. So I'm not preaching against it. I'm just saying you have to have someone who really knows what they're doing. And I would never do pellets in a woman until I was very clear with testing how she was going to respond to topical creams or to something else. Current blood panels. So Conley, what we do is, because I want to make this nationwide and available to everybody, the way we how you come into the system is to order the test kit. And it's a little over $100, so it's like not expensive at all. So we do estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. It doesn't matter what you're on now or where you are in your cycle, because this is a measurement of what's in the actual tissues. And then it's just a little tube. It's a saliva test. These are very accurate. They've been the lab has been around for almost 40 years. They're very, very accurate and dependable. They have third-party testing that comes into their lab and checks them out. So you just put the saliva in this little tube, and then you put it in the pack. There's a questionnaire, and this is probably the most important part besides your actual sample. But then you fill this out, and we have almost 70 symptoms on here. Everything from, I always say frozen shoulder, because most people don't know frozen shoulder is the thing with menopause. And most people think hot flashes, but like hot flashes, like way down on the list. It's weight gain, it's not sleeping, it's foggy brain fog, aches and pains, allergies, sugar cravings, hair loss, breast tenderness, weight gain. I always said that. Changes in cholesterol, blood pressure. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So that's where we start. So absolutely, your blood panels are very, very important. And once you do this, you just send it in. But this is where we start. It's kind of just the system. So absolutely, if you want to send in your blood panels, we can look at that too. But so my link in bio is where you can order the kit, or you can go to hormonebliss.com as well. So that's where we are. And the consult, yes, with our hormone coaches is included in the price of the kit. So it's just a little over $100. I think it's like $129. And if you had that lab testing done, I don't know if your insurance paid for your blood panels, but I mean, it can cost $500 or $600, even if you have insurance sometimes. So, okay. So that's the kit. And then we talked to you about hormones. My favorite is the, Annie, it's okay. I'm glad you're here now. Yeah. And then the plan is estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, bioidentical, and get you on the right stuff so you can get super balanced. And the topicals and the saliva testing are one of the safest ways to go. So if you're concerned at all, that's the safest way to go. Okay. So the next thing is advocate for change. So you guys are my tribe, and you guys are the voice of this. And it starts with us. It starts with you. It starts with you having the conversation. It starts with you having the courage to tell people, I'm doing this. It starts with you having the courage when you go to your ladies' groups and they're like, you're doing what? Hormones cause cancer. It takes you undoing the stigma. It takes you standing up and saying, no, it doesn't. Trust me, it doesn't. I've done my research. I just don't listen to just this crazy girl who talks on TikTok every night. I understand this. It makes sense. And she presents it in a way that it makes sense. And when you're curious and when you ask questions, you will find the truth. I really truly believe that God will give you the truth. It's discernment. And you know when you hear it, you know when it's true. And you know when you're suffering. Oh, thank you. She said, telling so many people, I love it. And you know when you're suffering, and you know when other women are suffering. You see it all the time. And as soon as people know that hormones are my life, they're like, first of all, they're like, can you help me? And then they're like totally resistant. And then they're like, no, hormones cause cancer. And the conversation shuts down. So you have to be brave enough to say in the kindest way, this is the dialogue. This is your tool. Okay. So when they say that to you, when they say hormones cause cancer, first of all, say what hormone causes cancer. Because now they're going to have to think. Now they're not just being fed a narrative. And that will shut them down almost every time. And then they'll say, well, estrogen causes cancer. Where do you get that? And then they'll say, well, that's what my doctor said. And then say, why did your doctor say that? And they'll say, because it's true. And like, do you believe everything your doctor says? And if they say yes, then say, maybe you should ask your doctor why that's true, because maybe there's more to the conversation than that. So that's how you sort of kind of feed along. So you can't just go, balls to the wall and just like, this is the way it is. And no, it doesn't cause cancer. Just start kind of promoting the question, kind of getting them to think a little bit outside the box and just start asking questions. So if you can just plant those seeds of doubt where there are forest of trees blocking the way, you can absolutely have a huge change there. So it absolutely starts with us. And then you can always say, do you have like the brain fog? Are you tired? And usually they're women that right? And they're suffering, and they have just been told to suck it up and be a martyr. And different. You know that you don't have to suck it up and be a martyr, and that there is a different way. But sometimes you just have to walk that walk. And if you are, real forceful, you're just going to push them away. You're going to make them like resistant even more. But you can just say those things. And then you can say, what if I told you that the study in 2002 that scared everybody against hormones was actually wrong, was actually misrepresented? What if that were true? I'm not saying it is, but what if it were? Yeah, I am saying it's true. But when you kind of have those conversations with people and you say, what if that was true? What if everything that you thought about that was misrepresented? And what if it wasn't the estrogen at all that people have, you know, tied their wagon up to? What if it was the progesterone? Do you know what progesterone is? And then, you kind of go from there. It's sort of like the conversations I have with these situations where doctors are just trying to stick women on cholesterol blocking medications like statins. It's like, I always say, ask your doctor what the potential side effects are and what your cholesterol levels are and what they're actually trying to treat and what your goal number is to get there. And then ask if they know that cholesterol is actually a hormone, and just see if they deer in the headlight you, run immediately and say, I don't want you blocking my hormones. I'm already menopausal, losing my mind and it's suffering. Don't take what little I have away. So yeah, that's interesting. What is a normal estrogen level? A Conley, I'm assuming that's your name. That's a pretty name. That is your name. Everybody's got these handles and stuff, so I don't know. A normal estrogen level, that very much depends, and I know you hate it when people say it depends, but it depends on if you're still menstruating, if you're perimenopausal, if you're postmenopausal. If you're postmenopausal, it would be absolutely 0, but that's normal if you don't have ovaries. but I try to get women up into the 60 to 80 range on estradiol, depending on where you're at your cycle, if you're still menstruating or if you're perimenopausal. So again, it just kind of depends, right? So optimally, postmenopausally, I like to get women's hormones up to about 60 to 80. Now that's on blood testing. Saliva testing, it's a little bit different measurement. So it's a little bit different, but 11. Okay, we're going to get it up to 80. Connie. Okay, so what else have I got here? Dispelling the risk of rejection, because sometimes people think that doctors are gods, and I will tell you that they are not. I am a doctor, and I have no superpowers. And in fact, if anybody ever says, "Is there a doctor in the house?" I almost don't even want to say anything, because I am powerless without. I think of like the superheroes, they have their shield or whatever their superpower is that they have. My superpower would only be my medications in my black bag. If they were coding, I would need my epi, my, the blood pressure medicines. I would need defibrillator. Now, yeah, I can do CPR or whatever, or mouth to mouth. But for the most part, if there's a situation on the side of the road, you let the EMS handle that, because they have all the tools. I have nothing except just, maybe my love and snuggles and hugs. But, in an acute situation, there's not a lot I'm going to do. I can do the Heimlich and stuff, but doctors have no superpowers. And it is only to the extent of the education of knowing the tools to use. And that is very powerful. Trust me. I went to school for 14 years, all total. So I am not disputing that there is a large amount of commitment and knowledge attached to that. But I am saying that if their egos are getting in the way and they're being jerks and they are making you feel small or disempowered in any way, they are not the only game in town, and there's someone else who will listen to you. And if they won't, get a test, get some hormones. And even young girls can do bioidentical hormones and can balance out dysfunctional uterine bleeding, can balance out PCOS, endometriosis. Our girls do not have to suffer. And so this is not just a conversation about, airy fairy, let's all have the conversation about periods and, birds and the bees and stuff. This is potentially life-saving information. And if they start early, they can avoid so many problems down the road as well. Okay. Do your research and ask questions. Ask them. It's okay. You can ask them. Okay. I'm going to turn my board around here. I almost just gave you guys 2 boards tonight, but I know you usually like 3 boards. So, breaking the silence. Dear daughters, I want to break the silence of how women silently endure. And it's okay to tell women that they're suffering and to acknowledge it, to tell our daughters they're having PCOS and endometriosis and all those things, and heavy periods. Can imbalanced hormones and estrogen dominance create high anxiety? Yes. And actually, I don't know if I got it posted from last night, but yesterday's talk at 7 was actually all about anxiety and depression and how hormones balance that. And you know what, Lori, that's a pretty name. What's very interesting is how little women know how much hormone imbalance is causing the suffering, because doctors don't want to hear you. If you go in and you have even 3 symptoms that they can't put a drug to because they have an ICD-9 or ICD-10 now diagnosis, if they can't see you in less than 3 minutes with their hand on the door and give you a drug for that, if a woman comes in with 3 symptoms or she comes in with 70, because I see this all the time. This is the sheet that's in our hormone kits. And there's 70 things on here. And frozen shoulder, what the heck? But arthritis, shoulder pains, bursitis, UTIs, memory problems, brain fog, chemical sensitivities, things that are really weird, blood pressure changes, anything that just wasn't happening when you were younger, now you have, it becomes this huge puzzle. They got to figure it out. I have women come in all the time and they have all of these. And I'm like, menopause, we're done. I mean, it's just that simple. And I don't mean to negate the pain, but I know what all this is. And like I had a little Hispanic woman not too long ago, absolutely precious. I think she's in her 60s, suffered so bad. She's had leaky gut. She's had so many GI problems. She gained so much weight. She was bloated. She thought she was having heart issues. She thought she was dying. And she's telling me all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there, menopause, ovarian failure. You guys that know me know that menopause is just a year without periods. But once your ovaries literally dry up, which they do, all of those symptoms are a part of that. So it's just so sad that I see people suffer like that. So, okay. Body autonomy, respect, and a high value woman. Let's teach our daughters to respect ourselves and respect our bodies. You know, I see it's really sad to me because we have moved away from the 50s of this really conservative shut down issue of, you know, we're very prudish, I guess was the term when I was a kid, to like seeing these girls at their high school proms in like mini skirts where I'm afraid if they bend over that like that's going to be not good. And so I think that there is a high value in protecting us, ourselves, and our integrity and not just putting it out there for everybody. So there is a pendulum that can swing, right? So I think there's somewhere in the middle about just self respect and body autonomy. What about progesterone? So I know I'm coming up on the end of the hour here pretty soon, but I'm going to talk about progesterone and the balance and things. So I promise I'm going to get a little nerdy science in here and I'll get off my rant. Number 3, dear daughters, I want to break the silence of menstrual cycles are not dirty. Kind of gross, but it's not, there's nothing dirty about it or shame about it. So let's get away from that. And let's be able to talk about it. And it's so sad to me that the mammalian model of a menstrual cycle is 3 days on average of light spotting. We are never meant to have super plus tampons. And I always say, follow the money. Who has the most to gain from women gushing blood? The industry of the sanitary pads and tampons, multi-billion-dollar industry. So like who has anything to gain with that, right? And then all the chemicals in our environment, all these endocrine disruptors, so much to gain, so much financial gain by us being in the dark. And I remember telling my mom, because I didn't know it at the time, endometriosis and ovarian dysfunction, dysfunctional uterine bleeding. And I didn't even know that was not normal. I didn't know it was normal to bleed for 10 days, so much in pain that I was like doubled over in the bathroom, sleeping on the floor. I mean, I tell my mom my stomach hurt, but she'd be like, oh, it's just your period, honey. It's okay. And she didn't know any better. Just sort of the kid and wondering if I should stop taking birth control before collecting samples. You know, the saliva samples are okay if you're still on birth control. It will suppress your hormones just a little bit. If you wanted the best sample, and I don't want you to stop birth control if you need that for family planning, because that's a whole nother conversation. So I don't want to risk you getting pregnant or anything. But ideally, I would probably wait about 7 to 10 days and just let that synthetic hormone out of your system so that it doesn't mask anything. But yeah, either way, it's okay. But we would get better results if you did stop it for at least 7 to 10 days. Okay. Dear daughter, what's normal? What's not? The myths around hormones. So all the things that I always advocate for, the truth, hormones, the WHI study, the harm that it did to women, start telling your daughters that, because it doesn't matter if you know it and they know it, they're still going to get the narrative out there. And so you have to be very clear and bring education to them and do your homework, do your research. There's tons of it out there, I promise. There are still doctors on these like Harvard sites and, you know, medical today. I don't know. I just see it and I'm like, they're still saying like, if you can't take hormones, take this. So you're still going to see it, right? So you have to go 2 or 3 layers down, or like people who like me who are like asking questions like, okay, is that really true? And then when you start asking questions, it all falls apart. But you have to be careful who has the motive for you to not know these things and not pursue real care, real hormones, natural hormones. Daughter recently found out she has endometriosis. Yeah, so that's so easy to fix. So she's got too much estrogen and she needs some progesterone. So get her a kit and let's get her fixed because it's so easy to do. Yeah. And don't let them take her uterus out unless she's got cancer or something. That's the first thing they're going to want to do. Or they're going to stick her on drugs that are going to block all of her female hormones and put her into menopause. And she's going to feel horrible. And that's going to deplete her bones of calcium because she's going to be in menopause for a long time because they'll tell you, well, either that or have a hysterectomy. So yeah, please be careful with that. I'm not telling you what to do with your medical care or her medical care. Just do your homework because it's an icky world out there. They don't really think outside the box. It's very narrow. Okay. And symptoms of something is wrong to get help. So what could be wrong? If your daughter's telling you she's tired all the time, or she's not sleeping, or she has pelvic pain, or migraines, or her PMS feels like she's suicidal, or heavy flow. And then, one of the other things you want to break the silence of is family planning. Birth control can be many, many things. It doesn't have to be synthetic. It can be IUDs, and we can do a whole nother talk on family planning options. But if they just tell you, well, you have to do this, or they don't give you informed consent, no, it can be a mess. And fertility. So much of these issues and hormone problems that we are seeing because of the environmental endocrine disruptors in the food supply and the environment is a mess. So I did want to kind of end with a little nerdy science here. What is a normal menstrual cycle? Talked about 3 days. Light spotting is normal. Our new normal is 7 to 10 days of heavy bleeding and to the point where all these other hormone symptoms kick in and we're going to the doctor saying, okay, check this out. And then they do an ultrasound. They're like, okay, you have endometriosis. Okay, well, what do I do about it now? Well, let's just put you into pseudo menopause. Yeah, or take it out, right? So a normal menstrual cycle, this is the estrogen line here. This is 28 days. Day 14 is the day you ovulate. And so estrogen's normally peaking here right before. This is where the PMS happens. And when estrogen is too high and you get too much estrogen, that's when you have all the PMS symptoms. So a woman in perimenopause or menopause who has too much estrogen will feel like she's PMSing all the time. And I see it all the time. And Bullsholes, oh yeah, Haleville, that was a blast from the past. That's cool. Yeah, I practiced there right when I got out of residency, and I loved it. I loved my people there. So yay, that's a happy memory. Okay, what can you expect during your hormone journey? So this is a graph of 0 to 100. Hope you live to be 100. 50 is about this mid-cycle. So our hormone fluctuations, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, we get to this point when we reach menopause is just a year without periods. That's all it is, just by definition. It's ovarian failure because we literally run out of eggs. We're born as baby girls with all the eggs we're ever going to have. So your daughters right now, depending on how old they are, if they're 15, they're probably down to about a quarter of their eggs. When they're in their 30s, they're probably about down to half, maybe even 2/3. And then the basket's empty, right? So it's really interesting. Microscopically, the eggs are just like specks, like almost like a little mass of DNA that you can't even see in the ovaries. It's only when the hormones actually make one develop. And then when that one develops in the little follicle or cyst and it pops out, it goes through the fallopian tubes and then can get fertilized in the uterus. So once we're out of eggs, we don't have any ovarian hormones anymore. So people ask me, well, how long are you going to take your hormones? And I say, till we can grow ovaries back, because I ain't going to be that miserable. Do you consult with us and prescribe what is unbalanced? Yeah, so once you do the kit and we get your results, our hormone coaches will get on the phone with you. The consult's absolutely included in the price of the kit. And then we'll make recommendations to what the dosing would look like for you. So there's not enough of me to take care of all of you, and I love you all, and I so want to, but I'm so involved in the program and I love all the protocols. So our promise to you is that we will get it right, but our promise is not to you that we'll get it right out of the gate. But that's why we want to work with you over time so that we can get it right, because every woman is different. The consult is absolutely included when you get the kit. The kit's a little over $100. It's $129. So it's absolutely included for the consult. And then our programs are where we dose everything and work with you to get it balanced. And sometimes it's quick, and then sometimes it takes a little while to get it balanced. But you'll feel better like immediately within the first 2 weeks, I promise you. Or if not, we'll work till we get you there. Or my FSH is 25.9, and it made me feel sad. Oh, Veronica, it's okay unless you're like younger and you want to have babies. Veronica's describing an FSH, which means that over 25, kind of on the borderline of being in ovarian failure, meaning you're out of eggs. So if you're still, wanting children, that's not a good thing. But menopause is wonderful because once you stop having periods, you don't have to have periods anymore. But if you don't have some hormones, it's going to be miserable. 48. Okay. Well, hope you are done having babies, because then I'm happy for you, because now you can get on some hormones and kind of get your life back. So that'd be awesome. Okay. So I'm going to hurry through these because I know I'm almost up on my hour. Just a few things. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You are entitled. It is your body. I would tell our daughters, start testing early. Get your 12-year-old a kit. It's never too early to have a baseline. And then if she starts having problems, you can track it. It's kind of like I always say, if you didn't have a thyroid, would they not test your thyroid? So I know we're talking about ovarian failure after menopause, but why would we not just preventatively want to know what our hormone levels are? I mean, it makes no sense. Absolutely. And then in my link in bio is a bunch of freebie stuff. And if you go there, there is, well, you can order the test kit there, but there's a lot of information. But I have my book. It's called Balancing Act, and Knowledge is Power. And I would definitely go download. It's absolutely free. Go download that and read it and give it to your daughters, because knowledge really is power. So I think that could be something very, very important to do, and share that. Go do your research. Make sure everything I say in there is true. I mean, I've got almost 25 years experience doing this, that I can tell you that I've done tons of nerdy research. So, but start testing early. Informed consent. I can't say enough of this. Don't let them take your uterus without telling you the risk, the benefits, and why they're doing it, and what your other options are. Daughter has her consult January 27th. Yay. After we do the kit, we join the program. Yep. So after you do a kit, if you feel like it's right for you, and that's why we do the testing first, is because, well, it's always your hormones. Hormones drive everything. But if you're having problems, we want to show you're not crazy and that there actually is something off. So yeah, so we have the option to do that if you want to. But so it just kind of depends which program you want to do, and if you need payments or HSA and all that kind of stuff. But they'll talk to you when you do that. But I mean, it's a minimal investment just to at least talk to them and see, what your options are. Okay. Informed consent. Any medications, any birth control, anything they want to put you on. Ask questions, get all the risks, benefits, side effects, and your other options. That's very, very key. You want to do a hysterectomy on me? Don't just make me sign paperwork as you're wheeling me back to cut my uterus out. I want to know what my other options are. Get health screenings, but be prepared to have to advocate for yourself. In my book, Balancing Act, I actually have the blood work that you can go ask your doctor for. And if they won't, you can do this. But I actually have how you can structure a plan for your daughter or for yourself to be empowered. Encourage education and ongoing learning. Knowledge is power. Know your options for family planning. Oral birth control is not the only option. Encourage supplements. Iron, especially if she's bleeding heavy and she's losing iron. She's going to be tired. I had a girl that came to me not too long ago. She's 19 and she's passing out. Her mom was so worried about her. She'd been to like 5 doctors. Nobody knew why she was passing out. Just kind of like, oh, drink more fluids. You're fine. Her iron level was like 19. It's supposed to be 100. I mean, just the insanity of she's having heavy periods, but they wouldn't even want to entertain that. They're like, oh, that's fine. We can put you on birth control if you want. I don't want to be on birth control is what she told them. Oh, well, and never made that connection that she's bleeding out her iron, and that's why she's passing out. Okay, there's my rant. Iron, vitamin D helps regulate your other hormones. Understand the importance of protein. Protein is so important to build muscle, especially in perimenopause. Very, very, very important, because if you build that structure in your muscles, it'll be so much easier for you to not lose muscle, to not lose bone after. So encourage your daughters, go with them, go to the gym, do some strength training. So, so, so important. Don't even focus on not eating carbs. Focus on the protein, because if you fill up on protein, there's not going to be a whole lot of room for carbs left. Okay. Don't tolerate medical professionals being disrespectful or gaslighting you ever, and be prepared to embrace the phases of your life with grace and power. So when you said, your late 40s and your FSH was elevated, and that just means you're out of eggs. So yes, impending ovarian failure is there. But we also get to embrace this time of life where we have the opportunity to travel. We have the opportunity to start a new business if we want. We have the opportunity to do so many things. And so just think about this part of your life. And it's a very spiritual thing to me as well, because it's sort of, there's a verse in the Bible about dry bones, and it talks about just sort of the rebirth of things. So just because your ovaries are drying up and poof, blowing away, there's so much value in what comes after that, and your experience and who you are now, and the boundaries that you've learned, and the power that you've gained, and how much you have to offer to the women coming up behind us. So embrace that. And I know it's a little bit sad and it feels like you're getting old, but I promise you, you don't have to get old. I'm 55, and I promise you, strength training, muscle, protein, taking care of yourself, good skincare, lots of supplements, lots of protein. I mean, you can do this, and you don't have to shrivel up and wrinkle up and poof and go away. Is it normal to lose weight in perimenopause? I've lost a lot recently. So there are a couple reasons to lose weight, but sometimes it's a thyroid imbalance. Sometimes something could be really wrong. So make sure you get checked out with your doctor. But sometimes stress can do it. So there's lots of other metabolic things that can do it. So I'd absolutely, check with your primary care doctor. And if they're jerks and they won't listen to you, then find a different one. But yeah, most people gain weight in perimenopause. But if there's a hormone imbalance where you have too much progesterone or too much estrogen, it can really throw things off, and people are very different. So it's hard to know exactly what that situation is. But I would say if you have hyperthyroid, that's probably the reason that you're gaining weight. And the thyroid tends to blow out when our ovaries fail too. Oh, you're so welcome. My thyroid is okay. Yeah. So losing weight, don't mess around with that, because there could be something seriously wrong. I'm not trying to scare you, but usually unwanted weight loss is something not quite right. But I don't know, everybody's metabolism is different. So I definitely get checked out. Okay, so we're up on the hour, and I love you guys so much. And I'm so appreciative that you are here with me. And I hope that you've learned something, and I hope you have joined the cause and the tribe. And colonoscopy came back. Said it's okay. Oh, yep, they're already kicking me off here, but I'm glad your colonoscopy was okay. But yeah, if you're still losing weight, it might just be that you need to get on some hormones and get balanced out a little bit. But you can start with the kids. So go to my link in bio, download some freebies. Let's get your emails so that you can find me anywhere I go. And just know that if I'm not here at 7:00 some night, that they cut me or something like that. But go to Facebook and find me, Instagram, and oh, Carol, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, so you guys have a wonderful evening. I'll see you here tomorrow at 7. Invite your friends and tell them this crazy girl talks all sorts of nerdy science and preaches about women's health a lot. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to direct message me. I try to see all of them, but there are a lot, sometimes more on some shows than others. So just if I'm not responding, message me again. And you can always email me at drtammy@hormonebliss.com, and I will see all of those, I promise. So that's great too. Okay, love you guys. Night, night.